Hello, beautiful people. This is Jackie, and it's going to be another travel vlog today. Today, we are going to Porto, Portugal. It was our first time in Portugal, so let's get to what we did. Upon arrival, we had some lunch, and then we went to visit these beautiful tiled churches, the Igreja do Carmo and Carmelitas. I'm going to apologize in advance if my pronunciation of Portuguese is terrible in this video. I will try my best, but I do not know any Portuguese, so apologies. The Carmelitas church was actually free to enter, and Carmo you did have to pay, but paying also gave you access to their exhibits, their upstairs area, their roof, and also their catacombs. So you might want to look away in a couple seconds if you don't want to see someone's skeleton. There they are, just chilling under the floor, being dead. The churches are directly next to each other, so it's very convenient to visit them both on the same day. The Carmelite church was actually once a convent, and it's very gilded on the inside. The Carmo church has some exhibits upstairs, including spaces that they used to use and some very elaborate church garments. Your ticket, like I said, will also get you onto the rooftop, where you will be able to look out and get an aerial view of Porto and the surrounding squares. We did not go all the way up because it was a little bit tight and we were just a little bit nervous about going all the way to the top, but you can see from where we were standing, we were able to get a pretty nice view of the surrounding areas. I believe the ticket was €5 per person, so it was not super expensive, and they were some very nice churches. It was time to check into our hotel, which was the Infante Sagres. I really loved this hotel. They left out some macarons and a bottle of Portuguese sparkling wine for us. It was the most beautiful hotel we stayed at on our trip, and the interior was truly stunning. I wish I had taken a video of their retro elevator, but I did show you here in this clip this little hole they had on the second floor so you could peek down into the lobby. Then for dinner that night, we went to Cantinho do Avillez. I had this delicious scallop appetizer, some white sangria, yummy sourdough bread, and a duck curry for my entree. My favorite thing was this lava cake with strawberry ice cream I had for dessert. Next day, we went to Livraria Lello. This was one of my favorite things we did all trip because, as you know, if you're subscribed to me, I love books. I love reading. Livraria Lello pitches itself as the most beautiful bookstore in the world, and it's easy to see why when you take in its interior. Now, this is an insanely popular attraction, and you have to buy timed tickets. People will start lining up for their timed ticket half an hour ahead of time, so you may want to get there early to be first in line. The bookstore opened its doors in 1881, and it consists of 2 floors filled with books. It has this very distinctive stained glass skylight, a red staircase, and a little bridge in the middle. They also have merchandise in addition to books. The ticket that we purchased also entitled us to 1 book per person. Now, the book has to be from Lello's Classics collection, and they will cover the books priced $15.97, though if you want to get a more expensive classic, you can then use your ticket for that and just pay the extra few euros for your chosen title. My mom didn't want her book, so I ended up getting 2, and I guess I will have to show those in a book haul soon. The bookstore was beautiful, but very, very crowded, which did make it a little bit hard to maneuver around. The line to purchase our books was also quite long. However, my tip for you is the bookstore did get less crowded close to the next entry window. So we bought a ticket for 10 a.m., I believe, and around 10:20, a lot of the people had gone and the 10:30 people hadn't come in yet. So if you do stay to right before the next time slot is going to come in, it will be a little easier for you to get around. Their classics were available in several different languages, including Portuguese, English, French, Spanish, and some other languages too, so you can get your book in your preferred language. Next, we went to Clerigos Church. This church is built in the Baroque style. Construction began in 1732 and lasted until 1750. The church's most distinct feature is its tower, which is 75 meters or approximately 246 feet tall. The tower is so tall that you can see it from various points in Porto. You can even see it from across the river. Now, the tour does let you go up into the tower, but we chose not to because we were a little bit tired of all these old steps at this point. It does have many exhibits though, including the church's crucifix collection, so there are many rooms that you can explore, all included in the price of your ticket. It was a very beautiful church. I particularly loved these pink details. I thought those were very pretty. And the exterior is also very nice. Like I said, that tower, you can see it from all over, so it's definitely one of Porto's most distinct landmarks. They also have a light show at the church at night, if that's something you're interested in. Next, we went across the river to World of Wine. This was my least favorite thing we did in our entire trip. So I would not recommend it, but the views from there were exceptional. You could see the old town, the river, the bridges. It was a very beautiful view, if a disappointing attraction. That night, we also went to this bar called Mind the Glass so that I could have a porn star martini. This is one of my favorite cocktails, and I've only ever seen them in Europe, so I was very excited to be able to have one since I can't get them in America. The next day, we went to Porto Cathedral. It looked like it was quite far on the map, but honestly, it was a really easy walk. The groundbreaking for Porto Cathedral took place in 1110, though some sort of religious center had been in this spot since the 5th or 6th century. Due to the continual building, the cathedral is a mix of Romanesque, Gothic, and Baroque styles. I personally love these Gothic cloisters and the blue and white tiles. There are so many of these beautiful tiles in Porto, and I absolutely love them. These ones in particular, I believe, are meant to depict biblical scenes. Now, the tomb that I showed you earlier, I was not able to find any marker saying whose tomb it was, but after doing a bit of research online, it seems like this is the tomb of a knight who served King Denis of Portugal. Porto Cathedral also apparently was the site of King John I of Portugal's marriage to Philippa of Lancaster on February 14, 1387. Philippa of Lancaster, she was the daughter of John of Gaunt, Duke of Lancaster, who was the founder of the English royal house of Lancaster, which you should have heard of if you, like me, are very interested in the Wars of the Roses. Together, King John I and Philippa of Lancaster were parents of the so-called illustrious generation in Portugal. One of their children included the famous Prince Henry the Navigator, who was a major figure in the Age of Discovery and Portuguese colonialism. One interesting fact I learned while reading Philippa of Lancaster's Wikipedia page. So in these royal marriages, a lot of times they would do something called a proxy marriage. Obviously, these marriages were for political alliances, and so sometimes the monarchs would be anxious to seal the deal as soon as possible. They would conduct a proxy marriage where basically there would be a stand-in for the groom. So the bride and groom would be married before the bride has even left her native country, and they would technically be married even though they never met in person. Well, what I learned is that there was apparently a unique Portuguese tradition where the proxy groom would pretend to bed the bride, which is interesting to say the least. So not only was he standing in for the groom, he was pretending to consummate the marriage. That's uncomfy. Anyways. Now, they do have Mass in Porto Cathedral, I believe every day at 11 a.m. We arrived shortly before that time, so they did tell us when we bought tickets that we would have to be out of the church proper when it was time for Mass. That is something to think about when you're planning your visit here, because a lot of these cathedrals and churches do to this day still have services, and obviously when service is going on, they do not want a bunch of tourists wandering around. I do feel like we had plenty of time to look around, however, and in addition to the interior of the church, we were also allowed to explore the cloisters, some of the side chapels, and we were able to go up to another level to look down at the cloisters. I think they also had a bell tower that maybe you could have explored. I'm not really quite sure. We just looked at it from afar, and that was good for us. I really enjoyed Porto Cathedral, particularly because of the beautiful tiles, which I really enjoyed looking at. And funnily enough, I just happened to be wearing a white and navy blue outfit that day. I did not plan it, but my outfit unexpectedly matched the tiles, so it was kind of fun for a little Instagram photo moment, you know? It was an enjoyable trip to the cathedral, and I had fun. There I am, smiling. Now, one of the most surprising attractions that we visited during our entire trip, in my opinion, was the Bishop's Palace. This is a stone's throw away from Porto Cathedral, mere feet from the cathedral, and when you buy your tickets, you can actually buy a double ticket to visit both attractions. So I added this to our itinerary just because they were so close together. But the reviews I was reading online were pretty lukewarm. I saw a lot of people saying, oh yeah, the Bishop's Palace is okay. There were some interesting things, but it wasn't a must-see. I have to say I'm so glad that we went because I thought it was really incredible. I was not expecting much due to the reviews, but I thought that the Bishop's Palace was a really great attraction. The original Episcopal Palace was built in the 12th or 13th century, though it underwent significant changes throughout the 16th and 17th centuries. The current palace was constructed in the 1700s, and so it consists of the Baroque and Rococo styles. During the Siege of Porto in 1832, the bishop fled the city, and the palace was temporarily used by King Pedro and his troops, who were in a war against Miguel I. Inside, you'll find rooms that were used by the bishop to greet visitors, and there are artifacts that I believe were donated by supporters of the church as well. It has a great view from the windows. You can look out onto the Douro River. Having not gone in with high expectations, I was really pleasantly surprised by the Bishop's Palace. Since it is so close to the cathedral and you can get a double ticket, I think it really is something you should do if you want to go to the cathedral. Another fact is that the cathedral, the bishop's palace, and the surrounding old town of Porto are all considered UNESCO World Heritage Sites. I definitely think this is an attraction you should consider going to in Porto. I really wasn't expecting much, and it was great. Afterwards, we walked over to the Church of Santa Clara. This is a small but very interesting church. It was a convent originally, actually. Now, you're probably looking at this footage and thinking, wow, look at this beautiful church with all of this gold and these marble detailings. I am going to tell you something that may surprise you. This is not marble. There is no marble in this church. There was a very nice employee who was talking to us while we were in there, and he actually knocked on the wall so that we could hear. It's not marble, it is wood. All painted wood that is made to look like marble. The gold is real though, because Portugal obviously colonized Brazil, and so they had a lot of gold that they imported to the country from Brazil. The man who we spoke to basically said the reason that churches like this one were given such ornate decorations was basically marketing. During the Reformation, a lot of people started going to Protestant churches, which are a little more Spartan looking. And so having a beautiful church was just a marketing tool because people like attractive things. It was a way to get people to come to the Catholic Church, give them beautiful surroundings so they would want to come. Another interesting fact, in that clip I just showed you, you probably saw these little carved faces in the choir seats. These exist because at the time you were not allowed to sit down during Mass, and it was a way for people to rest their butts, basically, so that they could look like they were standing but have a bit of a rest. Clever, huh? After that, we went for a walk down the hill to admire the Douro River and get some photos from the bridges there. We had a bit of lunch along the water as well. And that is it for our trip to Porto, Portugal. I hope you enjoyed following along and seeing what we saw. I will have more vlogs coming soon, so please subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you next time.